In 1942 it was the keystone of the war. The Regia Aeronautica needed to switch as soon as possible to the 5 series of its fighters, which would have re-established the potential of military aviation to counter the Allied action and would have guaranteed precious air supremacy areas. The projects were valid, both from an aeronautical and operational point of view. The main ones, those of the single-rotor fighters, were all 4 based on a single engine which would soon be produced in significant series directly by Fiat and Reggiane. Fiat and Reggiane Caproni had mass-produced production lines in its large and well-equipped factories that had nothing to envy to those of the main belligerent nations. Above all, painstaking study had eliminated the bottlenecks that had prevented the production in large numbers of the Alfa Romeo Monzones that had equipped the best Italian fighters of the previous series. In the meantime, the schools of specialized technicians were finally churning out a considerable quantity of quality workers who would populate the mass production lines. Meanwhile, the technicians sent to Germany to study mass production in the brand new reorganization wanted by Albert Speer reached the Italian factories by pouring the information and transferring it into practice, so that the ring production system with delocalized factories was already being implemented at the end of 1942. So both the Fiat G55 and the Reggiane Re 2005 would have been built with a production line surrounded by rings, each representing a group of necessary supplies to its construction, for which a ring for the semi-finished products, a ring for the realization of the electrical subparts, a ring for the ball bearings, and so on. It should be noted that this adoption and implementation had been extremely fast, because its organization had begun in Germany only a few months earlier, in March 1942. But this system would have benefited the 2 aircraft designed specifically for series production according to this method, i.e., the Fiat G55 and the Reggiane Re 2005, and of course the subsequent 6 series, which would begin to be produced in the second half of 1944. Between the middle of 1942 and the first months of 1943, the Regia Aeronautica would need a hunting at the height of the adversaries and easily producible according to the production lines already set up. This was undoubtedly the Aermacchi MC 205 Veltro. The engineer Mario Castaldi, as soon as he had all the data of the Daimler-Benz 605 engine, was able to ascertain from his calculations, from the power curves, from the quantification of the vibrations and stresses induced to the cell, that the cell of the Aermacchi MC 202 Folgore could be quickly adapted to the new powerful engine with very few changes, mainly manageable with the engine mount suitably rebalanced in its bracing, pins, forks and struts and tie rods. The Aermacchi MC 202 in 1942 was produced at a rate of 42 airplanes per month. Taking advantage of some of the new production lines, the production of the Aermacchi MC 205 would have been brought to more than 50 airplanes per month. While waiting for the large volumes of aircraft that could be generated with the ring system applied to the new Fiat and Reggiane aircraft, The Maquis fighter would have guaranteed a high-quality standard for the Regia Aeronautica in the interlude. The calculations and the limited modifications set by the engineer Mario Castaldi proved to be immediately spot on. The new aircraft responded well to all ground tests and was already flown in April 1942 with excellent results. Fast. Manageable like the Folgore. The new Veltro would have been powerfully armed, tripling the firepower of its predecessor and bringing its useful destructive range and its offensive capacity to a higher level than the best versions of the Spitfire and Mustang. Above all, it would have been lethal for Allied four-engine bombers. The pilots, excellently trained on the Folgore, would have had no problems in being immediately operational on the new aircraft. The problems that arose were those of limiting as much as possible Allied bombing of large Italian industrial settlements. Pending the establishment of delocalization and guaranteeing the logistics chain of materials and semi-finished products to the production lines. The new Maquis, by implementing new radio transmitters, was better suited to the air defense system, which in northern Italy was gathering modern radars and conducting fighters at a decidedly good level. Already in the first half of 1943, the new firing stations that could be used by the Wurzburg and Linz Vicino and Linz Lontano radars would have been capable of guaranteeing a good anti-aircraft contrast over the skies of Turin, Milan, Varese, Bologna, and then extended to the other industrial concentrations. Meanwhile, in the first months of 1943, the first underground factories for the production of high-quality aeronautics and electronics would be ready.